Her skin was ice, her breath was fire. The wind screamed outside like a monster made of snow. James sat inside his small igloo, wrapped in layers of thick clothing. His hands hovered near the tiny fire, the only source of heat on this frozen alien world. His breath made white clouds in the air. He hadn't seen another living soul for weeks. But tonight, something was different. He heard it, a soft sound. Not the wind, not ice cracking. It sounded like scratching. He grabbed his old plasma knife and crawled toward the entrance. His heartbeat grew louder in his ears. Then, he heard it clearly, this time. Please, let me in. A female voice. James froze. He opened the flap carefully, his knife ready. At first, he saw nothing but snow and black sky. Then, she crawled into view. She was tall, too tall for a human. Her silver skin was nearly glowing under the moonlight. Her hair looked like strands of dark blue silk stuck to her face by snow. She wore broken armor, cracked, smoking, and clearly useless against the cold. Her lips trembled. Her fingers were blue. She collapsed at his feet. I am freezing. James acted fast. He pulled her inside, closed the flap, and threw a fur blanket over her. She shook violently, her eyes fluttering open and closed. Her body felt like ice against his hands. He had never touched anything so cold. Hey, stay awake, he shouted, panicking. You'll die if you sleep now. She blinked slowly. Her glowing eyes stared at him. Human? Yes, James said. I'm human, and you're not dying today. He dragged her close to the fire. Her body barely moved. He took off his thick jacket and wrapped it around her. The moment his warmth touched her skin, she gasped sharply. What is this? This heat? James frowned. That's just body warmth. You're hypothermic. If I don't warm you up, your heart will stop. She looked confused. Then, almost in a whisper, she said, Are all humans this warm? James didn't know what to say. He just kept rubbing her arms, trying to bring warmth back into her limbs. Minutes passed. Her shaking slowed. Her breathing evened out. Slowly, she sat up. She looked around the small igloo. It was humble. Just enough for one man to survive. But to her it was a palace. I thought I would die out there, she whispered. Thank you. James nodded. You're lucky I heard you. She nodded slowly. My name is Sirenia. I am from the Thalkai race. He tilted his head. Never heard of them. She gave a weak smile. That is good. Most who know us fear us. James didn't respond to that. He just handed her a hot drink from his kettle. She took it carefully, her hand still shaking. When she sipped, her eyes widened again. This is strange, but good. Just melted. Snow and herbs, James said. Not exactly luxury. To me, it is life. There was a silence between them. The wind outside screamed again, but inside it felt quiet, calm, almost safe. Sirenia looked at him, her face serious. You helped me without knowing who I am, without asking for anything. James shrugged. I saw someone freezing. I helped. She tilted her head. On my world, help always comes with a price. James looked into her eyes. Then maybe it's time your world changed. She stared at him for a long time. Then, something strange happened. Her cheeks turned a faint shade of lavender. Was she blushing? Suddenly her body jerked slightly. She held her chest and groaned. What's wrong? James asked, leaning forward. My body. It's reacting, she said breathlessly. I need more heat or else. James frowned. You mean like fire? No, she said weakly. From you. Your heat. It's different. It's alive. I need more. James blinked. You want me to? Sirenia's eyes met his. Please. I don't want to die. His heart pounded. He didn't know what to think. He was alone for so long, and now a freezing alien girl was asking for warmth. Not just heat. His warmth. James nodded slowly. All right, just stay close. I'll keep you alive. She leaned into him, pressing her cold body against his side. He wrapped his arms around her, feeling her breathing slow, steady. Her skin was still cold, but her breath was like fire. The way she looked at him in the firelight, James couldn't sleep. Even though the storm had quieted outside, his heart was still racing. Beside him, Sirinya lay wrapped in thick blankets. Her silver skin had lost some of its frost and her breathing was stronger now. But every few minutes, she whispered strange words in her sleep. Words that didn't belong to any human language. Her body trembled now and then. Not from cold, but from something deeper. James kept poking the fire, trying to think, who was she really? And why? Did her presence feel so strange yet so familiar? Then, without warning, she opened her eyes. Her glowing eyes met his. But they weren't scared anymore. They were locked onto his face like they were trying to read his thoughts. You stayed awake, she said softly. Someone had to keep the fire going, James replied. You nearly froze to death. Sirinya sat up, still wrapped in the fur blanket. Her hair fell over one eye, messy and beautiful in the flickering light. I remember. Your hands, she whispered. When you touched me, my skin burned. But not in pain. It was awakening. James cleared his throat, a little nervous. Well, I don't know about that. I was just trying to keep you alive. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked around the small igloo, then back at him. No one's ever touched me before, she said suddenly. James blinked. Wait, what do you mean? My people, she said, we do not show weakness. Touch is sacred. Even family avoids it unless there is a reason. James raised an eyebrow. You're saying no one's ever hugged you? She tilted her head. Hugged? He chuckled. Yeah. Like this. He opened his arms. She looked at him, confused. Slowly, like a child seeing fire for the first time, she leaned forward and wrapped her arms around him. Her body trembled again, not from cold but from emotion. She didn't let go. In fact, her grip tightened. You are soft, she said, almost in wonder. But strong. James smiled. Thanks, I guess. Then she looked up at him again. This time her eyes were different, curious, intense. James, she said slowly, on my world, to share heat is to bond. James laughed. Well, where I come from, it's just being human. She didn't smile back. I think I am changing. What do you mean? He asked. She touched her chest. My core. It's stabilizing, but also shifting. Your presence, it does something to me. James's smile faded a little. Is that good or bad? I don't know, she said honestly. But I don't want it to stop. A strange silence settled between them. Then, outside the igloo, there was movement. Crunch. Snow. James froze. He stood quickly and grabbed his weapon. Sirinya immediately tensed, her glowing eyes darting to the igloo flap. Someone is here, she whispered. James held his breath. There it was again. Faint, careful footsteps circling the igloo. Not animal, not wind. Then, silence. James slowly approached the flap, raising the flap just an inch. No one. He stepped outside. The cold hit his skin like knives. He scanned the white darkness. Then, he saw it. Not one. Not two. 3 shadows. Tall figures in black armor standing still just beyond the snow ridge. Watching. Sirinya crawled beside him, her eyes wide. It's them, she whispered. The ones who left me to die. James turned to her. You said they were your people. They were. Now they are executioners. One of the shadows moved. Sirenia pulled James back inside. We have to leave this place. They won't knock. They will burn the ice and take my body. Why? James demanded. Why would your people do that to you? She looked away. Because I am different. I broke tradition. I questioned the ancient ways. Now they want silence. James clenched his jaw. Well, they'll have to go through me first. Sirenia looked at him again, the way she looked at him, like no one ever had. Not with fear, not with pity, but with a hope that made James feel something he thought he'd forgotten: purpose. She said, I owe you my life. But that's not all she meant. The fire was dying again. James threw the last chunk of frozen fuel into the small flame. Sparks jumped like tiny stars before fading. Sirenia sat beside him, wrapped in his old army coat, her silver skin now showing signs of health, and something else. Something he couldn't quite understand. She stared at the flames like she was watching memories burn away. You shouldn't have saved me, she whispered. James looked. Excuse me, my people. They say those who survive by another's warmth are no longer pure. I'm now bonded. James scratched his head. I don't get it. I just gave you a blanket and didn't let you freeze to death. That's called being decent. To you, she said softly. To my kind, it's called claiming. James blinked. Wait. You think I own you now? Sirenia didn't answer immediately. Her cheeks turned lavender again. Her version of blushing. She shifted uncomfortably, avoiding his eyes. I owe you my life, she said at last. But that's not all. James leaned forward. Then what else? She looked him in the eye, voice quiet. By our law, by ancient right, you are now my heart guard. James opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. What does a heart guard do exactly? She looked nervous now, like she expected rejection. Protect, share, heat, guide, mate if needed. Whoa, okay, James said quickly, waving his hands. You're still recovering. Let's not talk about mating right now. I don't mean now, Sirenia replied calmly. But eventually. It's the path we're on unless you reject me publicly. James stared at her. And if I do? She looked away. Then I lose my name. The wind outside howled again. James rubbed his face. He didn't sign up for this. He was a scout, a technician, not someone ready to become some alien girl's sacred bond. But the way she looked at him, not with desperation, not with need, but something warmer. She whispered, You don't have to accept me. I will still protect you. I will still die beside you, if needed. James couldn't look away from her eyes. They weren't human, but they felt more honest than anything he'd seen in years. Suddenly the igloo shook. A loud sound boomed across the frozen plain. A blast. Then, shouting. Alien voices. Getting closer. Sirenia stood fast. They found us. James jumped up and grabbed his survival pack. There's a cave system near the west cliff. If we move fast, we can lose them. But Sirenia didn't move. She pulled something from her side, a broken device, round and glowing faintly. My locator beacon, she said. I thought it was destroyed. They must have tracked its last signal. James looked at the beeping light, then at her. Then throw it out the back. Make them follow the wrong trail. Sirenia paused. Then she looked at James and handed him the beacon. Then it is you who should throw it. You saved me. I trust your hands. Without wasting a second, James ripped open the back flap of the igloo and hurled the beacon deep into the snow toward the south. He covered the trail with ice chunks to make it look like they fled that way. Then he turned to her. Now we run. But Sirenia didn't follow right away. She touched the igloo wall. This place. It was my tomb. You made it my home. Thank you. James gave her a nod. Let's stay alive so you can tell people that story later. They stepped into the night. The cold hit them like a slap. But this time, Sirenia didn't shake. Not once. She moved beside him, eyes sharp, body strong. And as they ran through the snow, side by side, James realized something strange. She wasn't slowing him down. She was keeping pace. No, she was leading him. They hunted her for betrayal. But she was hiding a greater secret. Snow crunched under their boots as Sirenia and James moved through the frozen night. A pale moon shone weakly above, casting long, ghostly shadows across the ice. The silence was sharp. Every step, every breath felt louder than it should. They were not alone. James kept looking back. Somewhere behind them, hidden in the dark, the enemy followed. Not fast, not loud, but close, too close. Why would they hunt one of their own this way? He whispered as they moved. Sirenia's jaw was tight. They don't see me as one of their own anymore. James glanced at her. Because I saved you? She shook her head. Because I questioned them. Because I touched truth. What truth? She didn't answer. They reached the entrance of an icy cave. James had mapped it weeks ago. Cold, narrow, but deep. They squeezed inside just in time to hear a strange growling sound in the distance. Sirenia tensed. That is not them, she said. That is something else. James froze. Wait, you mean there's something worse than your people out here? There are creatures that feed on heat, Sirenia said, her voice low. They can smell it. James looked down at their bodies, still steaming slightly from warmth and adrenaline. Great. Inside the cave, darkness wrapped around them. James turned on a dim light from his belt. The walls sparkled with crystals and frost clung to every surface. Sirenia looked around, her expression strange, nostalgic. I was born in a place like this, she whispered. Long before I knew what fear was. James raised a brow. What changed? My people. They train us from birth to obey, to never ask. But I asked why. She moved deeper into the cave. I found something, a message, from before the ice, a voice buried in the ice wall. It said, heat is not weakness, compassion is not betrayal. James followed her closely. You mean someone in your species believed in kindness? Long ago. Before they erased the past, James frowned. And they tried to erase you too. She stopped walking, turned to him, her eyes glowing softly. I carry knowledge they fear. That's why they left me behind. Not because I was weak, but because I became dangerous. James stared at her. Suddenly, everything made sense. The hunt, the silence, even her bond to him. You're not just a runaway, he said. You're a threat to their rule. Sirenia nodded. And now, so are you. Before he could reply, the cave echoed with a low, heavy growl. Not human, not alien. Something else. James turned his light slowly and saw eyes reflecting back. 3 pairs, low to the ground, moving fast. Run! Sirenia shouted. They bolted down the narrow tunnel, ducking, and sliding through the icy path. Behind them, claws scraped on stone. The creatures were chasing them, blind hunters but drawn by body heat. James fired his plasma pistol once, lighting the cave with a blue flash. Missed. The sound made the beasts scream, high-pitched, angry. Sirenia stopped suddenly and pulled him into a side tunnel. The creatures ran past unaware. In the silence that followed, James gasped for breath. Sirenia leaned close, whispering, We can't use weapons. It makes them crazed. He nodded, still breathing hard. Next time, lead with that information. She gave him the faintest smile. Noted. James looked at her for a moment. Even under stress, she was calm, focused, stronger than before. Something's different about you, he said. I'm remembering who I was, before they made me forget. Then she pulled a small, glowing shard from her armor. What's that? James asked. She hesitated. This is the voice I found. A memory core. It holds the words of the one who came before. A queen who tried to change everything. James blinked. And they buried it? They buried her ideas, her warmth. Sirenia looked up at him. And now I carry her message, and I carry you. James looked at her, stunned. Me? You are proof she was right. That kindness survives. Outside the tunnel, footsteps echoed. Not claws. Boots. Her hunters were near again. James raised his weapon, but this time, Sirenia raised her hand. No, she whispered. Let me be the fire. She said her heart was dying, and only his touch could restart it. They crouched together in the narrow side tunnel, surrounded by glowing blue ice. The footsteps were getting closer. James held his breath, clutching his weapon tightly. But Sirenia's hand gently pushed it down. No weapons, she whispered again. James looked at her. Then what? We just sit here and wait for them? Sirenia's eyes didn't blink. They think I am weak, but they don't understand the bond. They don't understand you. Her glowing shard pulsed like a heartbeat in her hand. James whispered, What is that thing really? A message? A key? It is a memory, but it's also alive. The last spark of the ancient queen's fire. Sirenia held it to her chest. And it needs one more thing to fully wake. James frowned. What? She looked at him, expression soft. Me? And you? He stared. What do you mean, me? My species evolved with bioenergy. Emotion, heat, even intention. It fuels our deepest systems. My core was shutting down in the cold. But since you touched me, it has started to repair. Now, it needs full ignition. James blinked. Like a jump start? Sirenia nodded. Like a fire needs a spark. But this is not just physical, it's a sacred act, a final bond. The footsteps stopped just above their tunnel. They were here. Sirenia's breathing grew heavier. She held her chest tightly. I can't hold it much longer, she whispered. The cold is still inside me. You can light what remains. But only if you accept me. James was silent. Not because he didn't want to, but because this moment felt bigger than anything he'd faced before. He looked into her eyes. They were glowing brighter now. But they flickered. Her time was running out. Without another word, James removed one of his gloves. He reached out and placed his hand on her heart. Her skin was cold, but beneath it, there was a slow rhythm. A soft pulse. She gasped. The shard in her hand flashed bright blue. Then her body arched back slightly as her breath escaped her lips like steam. Light poured from her chest, soft, glowing lines like vines stretching across her skin. She whispered, Do not be afraid, this is our joining. James held her steady. I'm not afraid. And he wasn't. Not anymore. Not when her light touched him and didn't burn. Not when her hands reached for his and didn't tremble. In that moment, he wasn't a lonely human on a frozen planet. He was something more. He was chosen. Suddenly, the ice above them shattered. A flash grenade dropped down into the tunnel. They both ducked, but the light faded quickly. No explosion. No sound. Just static. Sirenia's hunters stepped into the opening above. 3 of them. Black armor. Glowing red eyes. But they didn't attack. They froze in place. Because they saw the light. Sirenia stood slowly, wrapped in radiant warmth. Wrapped in James's warmth. Her voice was calm. Strong. Commanding. I am no longer a discarded warrior, she said. I carry the first fire now. I am bonded. One of the hunters stepped back. That's impossible. That ritual is lost. It's not lost, she said, eyes fierce. It just needed someone brave enough to believe. Her skin now shimmered like silver fire. Her core was alive. Her body fully awakened. They raised their weapons. James stepped in front of her. have to go through me. The lead hunter paused, then slowly lowered his rifle. She has chosen, he muttered. By the old laws, she is no longer ours to kill. But what about the human? The second asked. The first hunter gave a bitter smirk. If he truly completed the bond, then he is now ours to fear. They vanished into the shadows, leaving the cave. James turned to Serenia. You okay? She smiled. For the first time it looked happy. I feel everything. I feel alive. James touched her face gently. I guess warmth really does save lives. She leaned in close. No, James, she whispered. You saved mine. He was just a human, but now the galaxy feared their bond. The cave was silent again. Serenia's body still glowed softly in the cold darkness. The light from her skin faded slowly, but her energy remained strong. James stood beside her, eyes still scanning the cave walls, half expecting the hunters to return. But they didn't. They were afraid now. Afraid of him. He could barely believe it. A simple human survivalist. Now the center of some ancient alien ritual that had terrified trained assassins into retreat. What just happened? He finally asked, his voice hoarse. Serenia turned to him, her expression calm, powerful. They saw what I became, and more importantly, they saw who stood beside me. James looked at her carefully. You mean me? Yes, she said. You carry no rank, no armor, no training in our ways. And still you bonded with me. That changes everything. James scratched the back of his neck. Honestly, I was just trying to keep you from freezing to death. Serenia smiled gently. And that's what makes you so dangerous. You care without a reason. You touch without rules. That scares them. A rumble echoed deeper in the cave. Not footsteps, not voices, something bigger. Serenia's smile faded. That's not them, she whispered. That's the warden. James frowned. What's a warden? She turned toward the deeper tunnel, her body tense. The warden guards the sacred places. It was created to destroy anyone who carries the Queen's fire. Let me guess, James muttered. That would be you now. And you, she added quietly, because we lit it together. Before James could respond, the wall ahead cracked, splitting open like an ice shell. From within the glowing fissure, a massive creature stepped out, 10 feet tall, covered in black armor made of stone and frost. Its eyes glowed orange like twin suns. Its voice echoed like thunder. Unauthorized bond detected. Serenia stepped forward. We are not your enemy. The warden raised its arm. Energy formed at its core. James didn't hesitate. He grabbed Serenia's hand and pulled her behind a pillar of ice. The warden fired, a beam of searing heat that vaporized the spot where they had just stood. James shouted over the echo, Any ideas? Serenia looked down at her hand, still glowing faintly where James touched her. Only one, but it's risky. I like risky, James said, ducking another blast. She pulled the memory shard from her armor. This holds the Queen's last command. If we both touch it at the same time, it may override the warden. May, James shouted. What if it doesn't? Then it burns us alive, she said calmly. James stared at her, then looked at the warden, who was now preparing another blast. He nodded. Let's do it. They turned to face the warden together. James grabbed the shard with one hand. Serenia placed her other hand on it. For a second, nothing happened. Then, light exploded from the crystal, blinding and hot. James screamed, not in pain, but in pressure. It felt like time was folding. Then, silence. When he opened his eyes, the IO warden stood frozen. Its glowing core dimmed, its massive body shook. Processing. Ancient authority detected. The warden stepped back, dropped to one knee. Queen's line recognized. Bond accepted. James dropped the shard. It cracked, but didn't shatter. Sirinya collapsed into his arms. Her body was hot, burning, but alive. James held her tightly. "You're okay. You did it." "No," she whispered. "We did it." Outside the cave, dawn began to rise over the icy land. For the first time, the sky turned pink and gold instead of white and gray. They sat together in the mouth of the cave, two souls from different worlds. But now, bound by something ancient, powerful, and unstoppable. The galaxy didn't know it, yet. But the fire had returned, and this time it had a human spark. She no longer feared death, because the human taught her to live. The sun was rising, not just a pale blue glow like most days, but real light. Warmth kissed the ice. Snow melted slowly, dripping from the edge of the cave like tears falling from the sky. James stood near the entrance watching the new day. He didn't speak. He just breathed. Finally, deeply. Behind him, Sirinya sat against the wall, her armor now useless, but her eyes alive with fire. She had never looked more powerful, or more at peace. "I never thought I would see this sky again," she said softly. James turned to her. "Looks like you'll see many more." She gave a faint smile. "Only because of you." He stepped closer. "No, because of us." Sirinya touched the memory shard resting in her lap. It was cracked, but still glowing faintly. "This shard was meant to guide a leader," she whispered. "But I think it guided me to something greater." James sat down beside her. "What's greater than being a queen?" She looked at him. "Being free." They sat in silence for a while, no chasing, no fear, just stillness. Sirinya broke the silence. "My people will not stop. They'll return. This time, not just hunters. They'll bring warships, judges, fire." James nodded slowly. "Then we make a choice, run again or stand." "I'm done running," she said. He looked at her and grinned. "Good, because I have a crazy idea." Sirinya tilted her head. "I like crazy." "We broadcast this," James said. "Everything, the ritual, the bond, the warden's surrender. We send it to their homeworld, to every system that still listens." Sirinya's eyes widened. "They'll see the truth." "Exactly," James said. "Let them fear the fire again. Let them know a human helped relight it." Sirinya looked down at her glowing hands. "And what will they think of you?" He shrugged. "Doesn't matter, as long as they know I stood by you." She stared at him, and something in her changed. Again, deeper, warmer. "You could leave," she whispered. "You don't have to stay on this frozen world with me." James didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached out and took her hand. "I've been alone most of my life," he said. "And cold. But then one night someone knocked on my door and asked for warmth." Sirinya blinked slowly. "And now?" she asked. He leaned closer. "Now I can't imagine a life without it." She smiled, eyes glowing brighter than ever. Then gently she rested her forehead against his. In her culture, it was the final seal of the bond. In his, it meant something just as real. Trust, belonging, love. Suddenly, the warden reappeared at the entrance. It spoke in a quieter voice now. "New command registered. Awaiting orders from flamebearers." James looked at Sirinya. "You ready to lead a revolution?" She stood tall beside him. "No," she said with a confident smile. "I'm ready to start one." The warden opened a path through the ice. The sun shone through the glowing tunnel, and together, hand in hand, they walked into a world that had once been death, but now held life. Because where there was cold, they brought fire.